Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are going to create 3 cards using the Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit for July 2021. This is the kit. We're going to take a look at it and then we'll jump in and create 3 cards. Now, good news is this kit is still available, so I'll list it down below. And if you guys are new, this is a monthly kit subscription from Hero Arts. Every month they come out with a new one. This stamp set and dies, this kit does not is not in the shop, so once they're sold out, they're sold out. So we're going to take a look at it and then we're going to jump in and create 3 cards. This is your packaging, which I thought is so magical. It's so cute. I'm going to grab some white cardstock so you can actually see the stamp set. But there are little gnome houses, some mushrooms, and some florals. And I'm trying to think if all of these dies, these are the frame cuts, if they will cut out all the images. And it looks like all of the images are there except for the little trio of rocks. They you don't need a die for that anyway, so that's the rocks you can't cut out. But there's some fun sentiments in here that are go with your little fairy and gnome theme. You have, "You are very kind." You also have, "Thank you very much," which is cute. Now this is your second goodie bag. You get a whole bunch of sparkle sequins here. These are, well, actually not sequins, it's confetti. There's no holes in them, and they're called Stardust sequins. In a past kit with like the Northern Lights, Hero Arts had these and they were fabulous. So I was super excited to see them in this kit again. Next you get some mushroom washi tape. I won't be using this for my card today, but this makes great seals for your envelopes, which is fabulous. So it's green background with some red top mushrooms. You also get 3 Hero Arts mini ink cubes. These are 3 different colors, and we're going to kind of use this as a color theme today. But I'm going to swatch them out to show you what they are. These are just mini versions of the larger ink pads. So let's grab some white cardstock, and first we'll take a look at the pale tomato. I love pale tomato because it's not a bright red, it's not a rosy red, it's kind of like a corally red. The ink pads themselves are very juicy, so it's going on really heavy, but the color does pull back. The purple here is soft purple, and then the green is Green Hills. Again, it looks really dark, but the colors do pull back. But that's a pretty color palette, so that's what we're going to go for today. Next, we are going to put everything aside and we are going to stamp some images. Last month for the Hero kits, I had stamped all the images and then I colored them during the video. It did take like 15 minutes of the video, so I decided to skip the coloring for my images today, but I'm going to stamp them and then color them off camera. They're on the smaller side too, so sometimes I like to take my time in coloring, and it just makes for a shorter video. So we'll put some alcohol marker friendly cardstock in our Misty here and grab some images. I'm going to stamp a whole bunch of images and then kind of play around with placement. I like to do this, and so I will have extras. And I just put them in the packaging for quick and easy cards later on. But we're going to stamp the mushroom and then the little gnome tree, and we're going to stamp the little tree trunk and then the little bluebell flowers, which are so cute. I heard bluebells are good luck, so I'm definitely going to use those. Now there is some greenery, these little swishies. I'm going to use them as tall blades of grass. There's 2 of them in the stamp set. I'm going to stamp a whole bunch of them and use different shades of green to color them in. And again, I'll just use my Copic markers to color in all of my images. And I want my mushroom tops today to be the red top with white polka dots. So once we have everything colored in, I zoomed ahead, of course, and we are going to use the coordinating frame cuts and die cut out all of our images. And I did throw in some pinks. I know I was going to use the color palette and the ink cubes, but I threw in some pinks too, because on the doorway anyway. We're going to tape all of our dies down and do a lot of die cutting, and then when we're done, we are going to get to creating. After we have them all die cut, I kind of separate them into little piles per card. So I have 3 piles here. We're going to start off with our mushroom card. For this one, I'm going to use a whole bunch of those blades of grass with the swirly tops. I thought they were really playful. So we're going to bring in, for our background, a Hero Arts die. Love this die. I don't use it often enough, but this is the WOODGRAIN fancy die, and it doesn't die cut out, but it die cuts wood grain. It really creates a fun background, and it creates an A2 size card front panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. That's the size of my card base today. I die cut that out with white cardstock, and then we're going to tape this down directly to our card front. And you can see it just lines up beautifully. It's kind of hard to tell with the texture in the background here, but I love the way this looks. Now we're going to create a little scene. So I wanted a little hillside. So I'm taking some Hero Arts Kiwi cardstock and my Misty. I trimmed down, just freehanded a little hillside with a Kiwi cardstock, and this is where we're going to stamp our sentiment for this card. For this one, I chose "Thank you very much." And we're going to stamp this with, we're going to treat our paper with our anti-static powder bag, and then I'm going to heat emboss it with white embossing powder. So we'll ink this up with our Versamark ink, stamp this, and I'm stamping it a little bit to the left here, and then I'll use my heat gun, add my embossing powder, and use my heat gun and melt it so that our sentiment will stand out. I just got to remove some of that powder that's on there. I have removed it while it was still warm, and I smeared it, so I kind of wait for a little while for it to dry. Next, we're going to take our Green Hills mini ink cube, and I thought we'd add a little bit of color to the very top of our hillside, and I'm just using a finger dauber to do this, and this just so we have 2 different colors of green for our hillside. And that's good to go. We're going to flip this over, and I'm going to go ahead and add some foam adhesive behind our green hillside and put this on the very bottom of our card base. So this is 1 layer higher. Now after we have this, we're going to go ahead and take our blades of grass, and we're going to pop all of them up with some foam adhesive. Kind of do a little tucking behind the hillside, on top of the hillside. I wanted to create a diagonal line with the grass blades, kind of like the little mushrooms were on a hillside. But I think that, you know, I'm not even sure if these are blades of grass, but I think they look like blades of grass, so that's what I'm calling them, guys. But I think they're so fun. I have 1 left over. I'm going to pop it up with foam adhesive and put it in that, but right next to that smaller mushroom with the gnome sitting on top of it. But for bells and whistles, I'm going to add them all together at the end of the video. So we'll finish off with card number 1 and work on card number 2. For card number 2, we're going to create a frame. I'm bringing in some wood grains. I know Hero Arts even has a wood grain stencil too. That's wonderful. I tried to work it in, but I thought it was just too much. But I am going to be using the Wood Frame Infinity dies to create a frame for my next project. And then I did trim down a piece of cardstock to fit behind my frame. Now off camera, I went ahead and stamped a whole bunch of those pebbles on some white cardstock, and I created an archway, just freehand it with my scissors, to put next to my frame. We're going to make a landscape style card. I'm bringing in my Green Hills ink cube again, and we're going to do a little shading on our pebble piece. And then also I decided to create a hillside again with the Kiwi cardstock to go behind our pebble piece. We're going to take our frame, and this is going to go attached to our frame. So we'll flip it over. I'm going to add adhesive behind it, and then we'll attach our pebbles. We're going to create a scene with layers. So we'll grab this, put this behind there. I made it extra long because I didn't know how I wanted the archway to go. I have a little bit overhanging. We'll just trim that off. Now I want the green grass here to be adhered to my white background. So I'll add adhesive behind that, line it up behind my frame, and then once I'm happy, I'll line up my frame to my cardstock and press down. This way my hillside is exactly where I want it to go. I'm going to take the hillside and the frame, put it in my Misty so I can stamp my sentiment on the inside of my frame, For this one, I chose You're One of a Kind. I'm going to stamp that. And it looks kind of crooked, and I'm going to fix that with my frame. I must not have had that in the corner of my misting. But this is easy when you add a frame on top of it. I did pop up my frame with foam adhesive. We're just going to remove the release paper and add that to our background, straightening out that sentence. And then we're going to adhere that to our card base, which is a A2 size card base. Now we have our little elements that we colored in. We have our little gnome that's in the hammock, or I should say in the little leaf. You know what? It's a leaf, and I should have colored it in green, but I actually colored it in brown. So, you know what they say about hindsight. I added a few of the leaves to the right, and I did add my little bluebell flowers along. And I'm tucking all of these underneath my frame, guys. Along the left side. And sorry about the sun coming in. It's actually going down. My blinds are open. I have to go close them. But I added one more. I did have to trim off that last blade of grass on the left side there. But we're going to add bells and whistles to that one in a little bit too. Now for my third card, I created another hillside, of course, with the green kiwi cardstock. And if you guys haven't tried the Hero Arts cardstock, so you will love them. The Hero hues are a very heavy weight that create incredible nice card bases. They got die cut beautifully, and it's fabulous cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and adhere my sentence to the bottom of my little green hillside. I went ahead and did it off camera. I stamped my sentiment on some black cardstock and heat embossed it with white embossing powder. This is the sentiment that you can add gnome or home to. And I chose, we're going to stamp actually gnome, but it says there's no place like, and then you can fill in the blank however you want. Now, originally I was going to create a scene on some white cardstock, but I wanted to do something a bit different. I always seem to use white panels, so I brought in a piece of acetate. I created a card a while back doing this, and it was kind of almost like it was floating, and I loved the way this looked. I went ahead and added the tree trunk above my sentiment, and then all of this is on acetate. And then I'm going to add a few blades of grass on the right side. I actually had a smudge on my acetate that I wanted to cover up, so the blades of grass worked out really well. So I think that looks so cute. I have my little gnome and then my little gnome on a ladder. We're going to add those. The gnome on the ladder is going to go right in front of the tree trunk, and then the single gnome we'll put to the left of the tree here. And that is a cute little scene that I'm loving. My acetate piece was a little tall, so I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer and just trim off about 1 inch from that acetate. So that is our panel. Now I want to add some of those, I want to call them the stardust sequins. Yes, I want to add those to the acetate so it'll almost look like it's floating, which is really nice. I'm going to pop up my acetate background with foam tape, and I'm just going behind the image area so you can't see it. And I thought we'd add a little color, so I'm bringing in some Distress Oxide ink. This is Tumbled Glass. It's very soft. I just wanted a little soft blue in the background, just so when we add our little confetti pieces, it's going to really pop. We're going to add our scene, and it does look like it's floating, which is really nice. Just making sure my sentiment is level on the bottom. And then we'll take our card. I'm going to put my gnome right below my sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that with my Hero Arts Intense Black ink right below. So our sentiment is complete. It says there is no place like gnome. I think that's what it says. Yep. Here's where I'm going to add my sequins. I did add little dots of glue to the background, tiny dots, because these are very small. The glue will dry clear, which is nice, but I added them to the acetate so it looks like they're floating, which is really nice. Now for this card, I thought we would add our sequins to the blades of grass, so it looks like little morning dew. And then for the mushroom, I'm bringing in my Nuvo Simply White crystal drops, and I'm adding some white drops to the mushroom circles. This really gives a lot of dimension, guys. It makes them pop and stand out, and it's the first thing you look at with a card, and that's kind of what I wanted because the mushroom is super cute. So we'll wait for that to dry, and I'll finish adding my little sequins to the blades of grass here, so it looks like morning dew. And then for our third card, I wanted to fill the entire inside of my window frame around my sentiment with some of these sparkles. So I'm going to just go crazy and add a whole bunch of these sequins in the background. Now this card here, it would actually be really easy to turn into a shaker, but I chose not to. I just chose to leave it. But those are my 3 projects today. If you're interested, everything's below. If you want to see still shots, head on over to my blog. I take pictures over there that you can see a little bit more brighter too. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you again soon, guys. Bye-bye.